Didn't he?
He cut him off.
He knew
so
what
it
they
was
were
okay
gonna
for
do.
you to do that.
But he knew what they were
My
going to do.
God,
okay
now.
for you to do that, but you don't want
Eric
God-
Hovind.
Get an interview with you real quick?
That's
God know what
And you're the guy who walked across America.
Got it, man. I'm impressed with you. Come on over here. Let's get an interview.
Didn't God know what they would be?
Yeah, due process.
Okay. Hang on 1 second. Let me get a copy of this as well.
All right,
You
you're good?
Step a little further back. But
All right, hey, we're here at the Reason Rally, and we've run across Thunderf00t, famous atheist from YouTube, a YouTuber. What are you doing here?
I'm at the Reason Rally.
And what's the reason for being at the Reason Rally?
Well, I think the main reason is to let people know that this is actually one secular nation. It's not under God, it's a secular nation, right? And that secular thing means that everyone gets the right to practice whatever religion or to not practice whatever religion they want. Now, is that something you would agree with?
We have the freedom of religion.
That it is a secular country, and it is that secular nature of the country that gives you the freedom to practice whatever religion that you want, and it's what gives people like me the ability to not have to practice any religion.
Yes, but I would disagree with you not having a religion. I would call this a religious gathering. But let me ask you this.
Well, you do realize that secularism isn't a religion.
Well, we can talk about that later. Let me ask you this. Is it impossible for God to exist?
The question is malformed.
Is it impossible? Is it an absolute impossibility for God to exist?
There is, when you say, is it impossible? It is a malformed question.
Is it impossible for God to exist?
You have a brain that finds patterns, right?
Well, we're going to get to that in a second, but what I'm asking is it possible or is it impossible for God to exist?
So this is a question about models of reality, yeah?
Does reality exist?
Seems to be a fairly persistent illusion.
Okay. So is it impossible for God to exist in your reality?
Do you understand that in itself is a model?
Okay, in your reality, in your model of reality, is it impossible for God to exist?
It is a redundant concept. It is, that's actually disconcertingly close when you actually put that right up.
Well, it's I don't want to get all the background noise, so it's made like that.
Okay. It is a redundant model, right?
So it's impossible for God to exist, or it's not impossible?
No, look, listen to what I'm saying. It is a redundant model. It would be like saying, is it impossible for an invisible pink unicorn to exist at every point in every conceivable universe?
Is it impossible for an invisible pink unicorn to exist in every single point of the universe? Is that an impossibility?
It's a pointless question. It can never be...
What would be the answer to that question?
It's a malformed question.
So you're saying yes, it is impossible, or no, it's not impossible?
This microphone that you have was created because we actually can form models of reality, and those models have predictive capability. This is what it's all about, forming models of predictive capability about reality.
So I don't understand why you don't want to simply answer.
Come back here. Right? Now, the thing about proposing a God as an explanatory concept for anything, any unknown can explain any other unknown. So when you propose something like a God, it has complete explanatory power, but it has zero predictive capability, which is why things like microphones were actually invented by scientists and not by theologists.
Okay, let me ask you this, and I would disagree. All branches of science are founded by people that believed in God, but we're not answering the question, is it impossible for God to exist? That seems to be a question you don't want to answer.
It's a malformed question. I've told you 4 times now.
So the answer is neither yes nor no.
It's a pointless question. You're asking a question which can never be answered.
Let me ask you this. Out of all the knowledge in the universe, how much do we as a human race have? Out of everything there is to know about everything.
So this is a question about information theory.
Yeah, how much? Well, no, it's not a question about information theory. How much information? Let me ask you this: how much do you have?
So this is the interesting thing. If I were to say I have a wave function, what's the minimum amount of information you need to model this?
I'm asking you, out of all the information in the universe, how much does Thunderf00t have?
how much information is there in the universe is the thing that you need to resolve before you can answer that question.
Okay.
Right?
About how much
Come back here. Let me answer.
would you have?
Let me answer the question. So it actually comes down to this concept of what's the minimum amount of information you would need to model a wave function. And the answer is a wave function. It's the smallest amount of information you can actually have.
Sounds like a circular argument, but hang on just a second. Let's just assume that the information is infinite. We cannot measure it. Okay. Out of that, how much do you possess?
In which case, you can't make sense of the universe. In that model that you've just proposed, you couldn't make sense of anything, right? The reason that I...
So do you not know how much information you have?
The reason that I can tell that it's going to be day or night in 12 hours time, for me to know that, I don't need to know the wave function of every particle on Earth. Do you understand that?
We're not even to that yet, though. All I'm asking is, well, let me put it this way. Let's suppose for a second that you and I had 1% of all the knowledge in the universe. I think that would be exaggerated a great deal. But let's just suppose we thought, we don't know this, but we thought we had 1% of all the knowledge in the universe. Is it possible, here's my just simple logical question, is it possible out of the 99% that we don't possess, and it's probably more than that something could contradict the 1% that we think we do have? Is that a possibility? Would you concede that?
Do you understand that what you've done is just another malformed question, right? You have proposed, well, let's say there is a finite amount of knowledge in the universe. You accept that you proposed that there is a finite amount of knowledge in the universe.
I didn't, because I even asked you if it was, I said, if there's a universal amount, and you said, well, I don't like that. I said, okay, let's suppose 1% of however much there is, and you don't like that. You're not kind of answering any questions. I'm going, okay.
No, I'm giving you answers. It's just you're not understanding them.
Well, no, it's that you can't, would you be willing to admit that you could be wrong about everything you think you know?
The easiest version of that question is, do you think that reality exists?
Do you think that reality exists? I would say yes, and I have a reason. I just answered. Okay, well, you said it depends on what reality model you're talking about. So, are there different versions of reality?
They don't seem to be.
Okay, so then that question is really pointless about the different versions. If you don't believe there are, I'm talking about what you believe. According to your version of reality, how much knowledge do we have?
In order to actually ascertain what fraction of the total you actually have as knowledge, you must first establish what the total is. That's an unknown.
I agree.
So you're asking a question that is undefined.
Okay. If we did know how much there was.
Which we don't.
Okay, which we don't. If we did, and you could quantify how much you have, and you quantified that you had 1% of all the knowledge in the universe, is it possible that out of the 99% that you don't have, something could contradict your 1%?
Now, this is the thing. People who actually care about spending their lives doing useful things don't waste them proposing futile questions that can never be answered.
This isn't a futile question that can never be answered.
Yes, it is.
No, all I'm doing is simply showing you something.
Information there is in the universe, and you're saying, well, what if there was? Until you've actually established that there is a finite amount.
Can we ever establish that?
No, which is why it's pointless you even asking the question.
Right, so we can't establish how much knowledge there is in the universe. So let me just ask you this. Out of what you think you know, out of the infinite knowledge that we cannot establish, could you be proven wrong on everything you think you know?
We have a brain that forms models of predictive capability about reality. You understand?
But we're not even to that yet.
No, this is fundamental, right? Because until you actually understand that your brain is a model-forming apparatus, only once you understand that can you. That's the.
But what I'm trying to get at is how we can even comprehend or understand that. Because what I'm asking you is, could you be wrong about your limited knowledge with infinite knowledge available? Could what you think you know be wrong? Could you be wrong about everything you think you know? I don't normally have this difficult of a time. Most people can answer that, yes.
Most people don't give thoughtful answers.
I would agree with that, and I appreciate you thinking about that. But if you're intellectually honest, could you be wrong about everything you think you know?
It's conceivable that the universe doesn't exist.
There we go. So it's possible you don't know anything at all.
It's conceivable that the universe doesn't exist.
And if the universe doesn't exist, then you're not here, then you don't know anything, correct?
And if the universe doesn't exist, there's no God in it.
If the universe doesn't exist, though, you don't know anything.
This is exactly why this is so pointless, right? The reason that we actually live in the middle of a technologically advanced civilization is because there were people who got off their and actually figured out something about reality.
And most of those started by theologians, but that's not what I'm talking about. No, that's not what I'm talking about. You're the one who brought that up. I'm just saying I disagree. Here's what I'm saying. You said we could possibly not exist. We could possibly not even be here. What you're saying, Thunderfoot.
In which case, why are you talking to me?
In which case, what are you doing here? This is the reason, Rally.
The thing, I'm actually fairly convinced that reality exists.
I agree.
Speculating about, well, what if it doesn't exist?
No, you're the one who just said it's possible it doesn't. I'm not the one who said that. You're the one who said it's possible it doesn't.
This pointless philosophical speculation about the unknown really leaves me particularly nonplussed. Right? The reason that we have a technologically advanced civilization is because people figured out how things work. We know.
Hey, Thunderfoot.
The reason that we see here is just the bottom, is the top of a giant rock that's actually spinning around a star up there.
But you just said we could not even exist, so you don't even know that, do you?
Well, I don't have that limitation.
But you're the one who said you had that limitation, Thunderfoot.
Practical models of utility about reality. I'm happy.
But you don't even know that reality exists. Don't you see the fundamental underlying problem?
Okay, right. Well, we'll go with your We'll go with your stand that you don't believe the universe exists. Why?
No, it's not my claim. I do believe the universe exists.
Why are you actually so worried about whether the universe exists or not?
I don't. You're the one who just said it may not exist.
This is philosophy 101. There are 3 basal assumptions that everyone makes. Assumption number 1. The universe exists. Do you contest this assumption?
On my worldview, on my basis?
Do you contest the assumption that the universe exists?
Based on the God of the Bible? No, I do not.
No, in order to actually know that there is a universe to exist, that a God created,
you have to have knowledge.
No, it's just a basal assumption. It's something you can't actually know.
So it's possible we do not exist. And you don't see the silliness of it.
There are 3 basal assumptions. I'll just go through the assumptions. Assumption 1, the universe exists.
But we don't know that.
That's why they're called assumptions.
Right, so we don't know it. Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
Assumption 2, you can learn something about reality. Do you contest this assumption?
But we don't know that reality exists, but we can learn something about reality.
That's why they're called assumptions.
Right. I'm just making sure everybody understands. You're saying it's possible the universe doesn't exist, and it's possible reality doesn't exist. This is your stand, not mine.
Okay, what's your stand?
My stand is that reality does exist.
You agree with everything that I said. Why do you keep saying, well, that's just an assumption on your part?
No, you're calling them assumptions right now. You said that's why they're called assumptions.
Oh, okay.
So you're trying to turn the table on something that you said. You're trying to put your words in my mouth.
Everyone here, every single person, 3 assumptions. Universe exists, you can learn something about it. Models with predictive capability are more useful than models without predictive capability.
But we don't know that.
Yes, these are the 3 basal assumptions.
So we don't know that.
Yeah, absolutely. These are assumptions.
Absolutely know it, or we absolutely don't know it for sure?
They're assumptions.
So we don't know these things.
Yeah, you can't know them.
Okay, there we go.
Right.